Health Diary, brought to you by Brookside Dairy Plus. Live Life Plus with Brookside.
Well, hi there. It's good to see you once again right here on Health Diary. My name is Winnie Lubembe and we're coming to you from Brave Care Consulting offices who are kind enough to host us today. We'll be focusing on nutrition and autism and just get to understand what exactly does nutrition look like for, say, kids or patients with autism spectrum, given that the severity differs. So what exactly matters when it comes to nutrition, or what considerations should be put in place to ensure that children or adults with autism get the right nutrition that they need for their health? Well, let's find out after these facts of the matter.
Many individuals with autism spectrum disorder experience food intolerances or sensitivities, often to gluten or dairy, which can exacerbate gastrointestinal symptoms. Feeding difficulties such as selective eating patterns or swallowing issues further complicate nutritional intake and digestive health management. However, various interventions have been explored to address these challenges, including dietary modifications, vitamin supplementation, feeding therapy, and behavioral interventions.
All right, let's talk about nutrition and what it looks like for children or adults with autism. And to help us with that conversation, on my immediate left, we have Sharon Onyango, who's an occupational therapist right here at Brave Care. Thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us on the show. And we also have George Omondo, who is a nutritionist, and by now you know him, okay? He's also the president of Kenya Nutrition and Dietetics Students Association, joining us for this conversation as well. So thank you so much, George, for making the time. So Sharon, can we start with just understanding autism? Because they say autism, it's a spectrum, right? Yes. So just help us really understand in the simplest language possible what autism is all about.
Thank you so much. When I talk about autism spectrum disorder, it's a neurological condition that affects how a person behaves, communicates, and socially interacts with other people. And autism, the research is still being done on the common cause of autism, but so far, the main cause that we know of autism is genetics, whereby some studies have shown that genetic is a major contributing factor to autism spectrum disorder. And
yeah, okay. So at what point then do we see diagnosis happen, and what are some of the telltale signs for the parents to probably be keen on?
For the diagnosis of autism, the diagnosis mostly at 18 to 24 months. That's when we can make a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. That's when kids develop normally, there's some milestones that they achieve. For autism kids, they achieve their milestones normally, but when it comes to speech or the eye contact, that's when we have a huge problem. And that's when doctors can be able to make a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder.
Okay. So what are some of these milestones that probably they might not hit at so like expected time?
At 3 years, a child is expected to be able to formulate 2 or 3 words. And for autism kids, formulating those words will become a challenge to them. Mostly, some of them, they have the sounds, but they're not able to make the 2 to 3 words as expected.
Okay. George, just take us through then the nutritional requirements and considerations that parents need to be aware of as far as autism is concerned.
All right, thank you so much. Well, some of the considerations they need to take is that you need to understand that kids who are autistic, they have, selective foods. They are very selective on the kind of foods they eat. And because of that selectivity, it's easier to suffer from nutrition deficiencies. Okay. So what we need to know is, and they select food based on food color, texture, flavor. Okay. And again, you find that autistic children they're used to a certain kind of pattern. So you find if they're used to eating certain kind of foods, they'll maintain that pattern for a long time. And that may put them at a risk of suffering, nutrient deficiencies. So what we need to do is, once we know the challenge is selectivity of food, we try now to see how we can sort this out. So we try to introduce more nutrient-dense foods, but of course foods that they have accepted. Because again, you cannot give food that they cannot accept.
Yeah.
So the ones that they have accepted, so that we'll be able to sort the deficiencies that can come up because of fiber, calcium, and vitamin D. The other challenge that will come is because of this selectivity, there is low intake of food, and that also we have to sort it out. So again, we have to give variety of foods that of course the ones that have accepted to be able to sort things like fiber deficiencies, iron deficiencies, calcium, and vitamin A. The other risk that they may fall is gastro reflux issues. So most of them are prone to diarrhea, they're prone to constipation. So we make sure that the kinds of food you are giving has to be rich in fiber. That means you have to give a lot of vegetables, you have to give a lot of fruits, so that we are able to sort out some of these gastro issues.
How soon then do we notice some of this, like say for example selective picking? Because a parent might notice that and just assume, yeah, probably they're not feeling it today. But is there a specific pattern that probably parents should be, watching out for to know this is more than just the child not wanting to eat a certain food?
Yeah, there's in fact, if a pattern goes more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it should be a worry. Because notice they may like certain processed food more. For example, chicken food. Every time you bring chicken, they warm up to it very fast. So, and if you try something different, they may not want to take it. So if you notice that kind of pattern, that is already a problem, because that means if you continue giving the same, they lack in so many other things. Then that needs to be sorted out. But another challenge that comes with autistic children is their inability to tell anger and fullness cues. So a child may not know when they're hungry, and they may not tell also when they're full. So because they're not able to tell when they're full, they may eat and eat, which can expose them to obesity. For those who cannot also tell anger cues, they may likely suffer from undernutrition or even underweight. So those are some of the things that caregivers and parents need to look out for. Yeah, and another challenge that is coming up is you find some may not take gluten. They may react to gluten foods or foods that are rich in casein. So you find the moment they utilize those kind of foods, they get more hyperactive. Yeah, because they induce some kind of opioid kind of reaction in the brain, so they tend to be hyperactive. So then when we notice that our kids are like that, we need to withdraw. So we need to avoid any gluten. We need to give gluten-free food and casein-free food to avoid, hyperactivity, because they're already hyperactive. So when you add those, they become super. But there are those who may not have that issue, that problem. So it of course has to be diagnosed. You have to see a specialist to diagnose, and if it's the case, then you need to avoid foods that are rich in gluten or casein, at all.
Sharon, so understanding some of these developmental milestones that probably they might not hit at a specific time, how big of a challenge then is it, say, growing up and they're not able to hit this? What dangers do they pose for the child if they're not able to hit a certain specific milestone and that is not addressed in good time?
For the speech, they usually experience delayed speech, and when these kids don't hit that milestone at the expected time, they face issues with going to school, since in school it involves the communication and the social interaction with other kids. So they face that challenge of attending school and also communicating how they feel and expressing their emotions, whatever they want, what food they want to eat, how they feel, whether they are sad or happy. So that's part of the challenges that they experience.
Okay. So then as an occupational therapist, so how are you able then to help, these children to sort of like, not necessarily like hit those milestones, but at least have a better quality of life? What are some of the services that probably you offer that might be useful even for the parents at home?
As an occupational therapist, we focus on enabling the children to do their daily activities of living, which includes the feeding, the grooming, the bathing, the toileting, and the dressing. And also the instrumental activities of daily living that involves the leisure part. And for children, we know that their main occupation is play. And if a child isn't able to socially interact with other kids, they'll have that challenge of engaging in the activity of play. So as occupational therapists, when we do our activities, we engage them during our session, we engage them in activities that involve stand taking, me as the therapist and the child himself or herself. We also do activities that involve eye contact. Children with autism, they have problems with maintaining eye contact and also eye-hand coordination. We also do activities that involves focusing on their attention, concentration, and an activity that helps in reducing their hyperactiveness can include jumping on the trampoline. So when they jump on that trampoline, we attend the session, their hyperactiveness has reduced, and then they are able to engage in the activity that is designed for them.
Oh, interesting. What exactly is it that you do or probably help to ensure that this child not just, is a picky eater, but also eat, and also the ways that they can feed to ensure that they get the full nutrition?
On feeding, with occupational therapists, mostly part of us, we refer to the nutritionist, because the nutritionist is the one that knows more on the feeding part. But during our sessions, when we engage the child in various sensory activities, it involves, it explores them to various sensory activities.
Okay, yeah, because I saw you were doing something with the jaws.
Oral,
I don't know if that helps.
Oral motor stimulation, it's done for kids who have problems with chewing. So it helps in strengthening their muscles to enable them to be able to chew food and be able to swallow, which helps in their feeding.
Okay, interesting. So then, can we then understand some of the problems when it comes to these deficiencies, if not attended to earlier? How detrimental can it be in their development generally?
Okay. Well, for example, when you talk about the issue of selective eating, that can put the child may run a risk of macronutrient deficiencies, which has a lot of problems. First, they may suffer from neurological disorders, because when you lack folate or iodine, and especially iodine and folate, they'll have, because they are part of brain development, it may affect their cognitive ability. And also because they have delayed developmental milestones, like, for example, speaking or speech. And there are some nutrients which are very important for that process, the B vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins. So if they don't take, then it worsens their condition. So, and in fact, again, we are looking at, and you see the severity also differs. If they're not utilized, again, calcium and vitamin D, we have those who have, weak bone mass, which again may expose them to fractures and osteoporosis later in life. So, and those are things that we really are trying to avoid and to sort them out. So what you're saying, that the meal for the child has to be balanced, but it has to be foods that they have accepted. Again, you cannot induce something they do not accept. They have to accept. And in case they do not, for example, in the case we are saying we're supposed to give gluten-free food, you need to substitute with something that will give, the same nutrients that what you're substituting. If they don't like, for example, skuma wiki as an example, you have to find another vegetable that will give the same nutrients. So you try a variety until you find that they are able to accept, and then you give. And you give variety as such.
And Sharon, before we take a break, for the parents who are watching us and thinking, okay, so what are some of the things that I can do at home? Yes, there's that role of occupational therapists, but there are things that they can do at home to also just support their child before the next appointment with an occupational therapist or a physiotherapist.
My advice to parents, when they get home and the occupational therapist has done a part or his or her part at the hospital, there are some of the activities that they can engage their children with at home that helps in their fine motor, their hand coordination, eye contact, and attention and concentration. They can involve themselves with the kid, and it also helps in building their speech, because when you interact with a kid, there is that talking, and the kid can be able to imitate the sounds that you make or some of the words that you produce. And also be patient with their kid. Kids are different, and for every milestone that the child achieves, celebrate it because it's worthy.
And Cecilia gets to join us now. Cecilia Njuguna is a mom to a child with autism, to just really put a face to it and help us really understand what nutrition looks like for a child with autism. So Cecilia, thank you so much for making the time. So tuambie kidogo a little bit about your child and how the journey has been, especially food zake and nutrition.
Cecilia Njuguna. I noticed about the milestone delays since he was 3 months, and he has been all his milestones has been delayed, and that is when I went and visited. Okay, like when I went to the hospital, they told me, like now we can't tell you anything because it's normal for children at this time, and tumpe to time tuone progress yake as he grows. So when he was 2 years, that is when I took him to daycare, because he didn't have any speech. So when I went there, the teacher I met at that daycare asked me to come in the evening and see her in the office. Yeye ndiye akaniambia, Cecilia, Mama Hila, nimeona mtoto wako amedelay na pia ako very hyper cause angeingia kwa hiyo daycare hakuna kitu giakaa karibu na yeye, kishika ni kurusha. Yeah, ako all over the place. So akaniambia mimi nitakutuma Dr. Plaza. So nikaenda hapo, mtoto wangu akafanyiwa assessment. Then after that moment ndio tukaenda hasa tena Kise. Then akafanyiwa another assessment after juu ya shule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ndio mkaambiwa this autism.
Yeah, nikaambiwa na autism. Yeah.
Okay. So are there things that probably will notice, especially when it comes to like chakula, what he likes to eat, what he doesn't, like feeding schedule yake iko aje?
Kwa chakula, most of the chakula hakuwa na any problem na chakula, but when it comes to like bananas, the cooked one, hakuwa nataka them atoke, hakuwa nataka vitu kama doma, ana refuse. Alikuwa anapenda vitu kama skali, but saa hiyo hizo ndizo vile vitu miabu simpe.
Yes.
Yeah, but unaona ako interested sana vitu kama mkate, miabu avoid the wheat, but ndizo anataka zaidi. But with the time ndio tulienda hasa tukireduce, even though till today anazipenda.
Yeah. So then how do you balance so that una make sure anakula a balanced diet?
What I used to do ni kupuguza, sikumwachisha like at once. Yeah. Nilienda nikipuguza in a way until nika notice zile vitu sana hata zinamuaffect, because at some point kuna doctor alikuwa ananiambia si watoto wote huaffectiwa na kitu fulani.
Okay.
Juu unaweza pata wangu hata nikimpea wheat hakuwa ati anakuwa hyperactive or anything, but sugars ndizo nilirealize zinamuaffect.
Okay.
So sugars ndizo nilifika at a time ni kazi acha kabisa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. George, do you want to pick from there?
Yeah.
Like the difference in terms of
sure,
what they react to.
And I think it's important to point out that the severity is different and the preference is also different, and that's why we talk about personalized nutrition care. Because what a child may react to or what one child may choose to love may not be the same with the other. So there's no blanket treatment. Even as we say gluten-free, casein-free, this is not for everyone. You have actually to be diagnosed and to be found that you have an issue with gluten or you have an issue with casein. Yeah. So it's not for everyone. And in fact, we caution parents from exercising some of these therapeutic diets, because if you exercise them without supervision of a nutritionist, you're actually putting the child into more risk, because they will suffer deficiencies of calcium and vitamin D, which is found in milk. You know, they'll suffer deficiency of vitamin B12 and fiber, which is found in, gluten. So unless a child is diagnosed, medically diagnosed, then you can, initiate those therapeutic diets. You don't just do them blindly. Yes. And one therapeutic method cannot be used to serve the other. Another thing also we need to note is that those kind of diets cannot be practiced, for example, if a child has been medically diagnosed with what we call celiac disease. Celiac disease is where a child reacts to gluten, then they cannot use those other therapies. Yeah. Or for example, if they are having dairy allergies, if they're allergic to milk, if they're having lactose intolerance, then of course you cannot initiate some of those therapies. So again, it depends. The situation is different, can never be the same. Okay. So we cannot initiate things blindly. Every case is different from the other.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
For those who are supposed to take casein-free milk, cannot take dairy sources of protein.
Okay.
So they'll have to go on dairy source.
So we're talking about plant-based?
Yes,
okay.
plant-based.
Okay. Yeah.
And then now, this now brings us to the question. You see now, when we recommend casein-free diets, which means no milk at all. But remember, milk has calcium, vitamin D that's essential and they need for their bone, right?
Yeah.
So then that's now we go back to plant-based milk sources,
Okay.
which are available.
Okay.
So that they do not really suffer from deficiency of calcium, vitamin D, phosphorus and magnesium. So even protein itself. So we recommend plant-based sources of milk.
Yeah, and speaking about milk, because we have different options. We have almond, we have soy, we have oats.
Yes.
We have all these types. So those are okay.
Those are
it
okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which.
For those who
okay.
have been told not to, or to use casein-free, so they can use plant-based sources. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Cecilia, so looking at how you've been able to like reduce polepole mpaka saizi umewacha, are there things that you have noticed that is different in terms of vile mtoto yuko, the way they're growing and development? Have you noticed anything different?
Yeah, I have. When I avoid like sugar, all the sugars like completely, and I realize my son ako cool. His behavior is okay. He can interact even with other kids. But when I give him sugars, he will be all over the house. Even if you tell him to sit down, he'll sit. The next minute he's up. He just want to move. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it like at specific times, or to just continuously?
It's something continuous.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are there other things that you do to help them, especially with like their diet, their nutrition? Do they love milk? Do they not?
Yeah, about milk. He loves milk.
Okay.
But the only thing I know that if he takes, he'll be hyper. It's just sugar.
Okay.
The milk, I tried like to remove it like a week or two, and I won't say any change. Okay. He's still the same, the weight the same, but what I avoid like completely is the sugars.
Sugar. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And about the diet, hila food yake lazima umpe na portion. If you don't, he will still say, I want more, I want more.
Okay.
So when he overeats, he starts maybe sleeping. Then after, he just throw it. Yeah, it starts vomiting or diarrhea.
And now that we said the show has been sponsored by Brookside Plus, Live Life Plus, but it's also the nature, aspect of it, and that is simply nature. Plant-based, which you talked about, milk are mostly recommended, and Brookside, they have all those things. There's almond, there's soy, and there's oats as well, which is newly introduced into the market. And all these are, like we said, plant-based. So that means they are naturally lactose-free, free of casein, no sugar added, and of course, gluten-free, which is good, right?
Yeah.
And even as they grow up, because you see, like we talked about, it's a spectrum. So there are those with like mild, others severe. So this also, depends on the severity. But even as they grow up, do you change their nutrition based on what they need at specific points of their growth and development?
Yeah, of course you need to change because again, if they're younger and they're developing, you may tend to focus more on proteins, take up of the growth. Yeah, but as they get to a certain age, then you really have to check on the amounts that they are taking. But see, she's mentioned a very important point. Yeah. Initially, I mentioned one of the challenges of autistic children is the difficulty, to tell when they are hungry or when they are full. Because they cannot tell when they are hungry, you may find they may not eat as much, which can expose them to undernutrition or underweight. But again, also they cannot tell when they are full, which can expose them to more. And the way she's doing it is very nice, giving it in portions. So also when you understand your child, and the caregiver also understands the child, so it's easier to manage the situation. So when they're angry, you can tell when they're full, so they don't overfeed and expose them to other problems.
Yeah. All right. So then as we bring this to a close, in terms of supplements, vitamins and minerals as well, what role do they play? Should that be included in a child's diet?
Yes, that should be included because we said because of their nature where they are selective in that, and also because they are used to certain kind of routine, so it's easy to to suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. So supplementation is important. We will recommend to supplement. Major focus is on calcium, vitamin D, fiber, iron, and folate.
As we bring this to a close, what is it that we like to tell, say, parents, mtu ako na autism, and they want them to grow and, you know, a part of those milestones and just be healthy in general, based on what you've done, unaweza ambia nini as we bring this to a close?
Ile kitu naweza ambia mzazi ako na mtoto wa autism ni learn from your child. Don't feed them what you want them to know, or either he or she. Learn from them and what they want or what they are interested in, support them. Because like my son, he loves music. And even in school, the teachers, everyone supports that. Yeah. And that is what makes him who he is. Yeah. So ukilearn mtoto wako, unamsupport kama mzazi, then mpatie tu your freedom in the house. Just raise them as any other kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cecilia.
Yeah.
Juguna is a mom to a child with autism and a caregiver, really. And George Omolo is a nutritionist and president, Kenya Nutrition and Dietetics Students Association, joining us for this conversation today. Well, time now for you to take a look at this health tip.
So on today's health tip, we focus on healthy foods that the mother is supposed to take when breastfeeding. So these foods should be able to take care of the health of the mother and also breastfeeding child. So we focus on the three major groups that are the energy-giving foods, the body-building foods, and also the vitamins and minerals. Energy-giving foods are basically foods that give the mother energy. These are from carbohydrates. They include ugali, chapati, rice, etc. The body-building food, this includes proteins. Could be animal protein, that could be meat, fish, eggs, and also plant proteins. It include the legumes, the dengu, the beans. And protective foods, these are vitamins and minerals that are found in majorly, particularly all foods, but mainly in vegetables and fruits.
Well, given that some patients with autism experience challenges like sensory sensitivities, gastrointestinal issues, or picky eating, they might suffer from nutrition deficiency. Therefore, it is important to be mindful of what they take and how they take and when they take. But if you have any other question, feel free to engage with us on our social media platforms, and that is at NTV Kenya across all board. But for now, allow us to say goodbye. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and a special thanks to Brave Care Consulting Offices for hosting us today, and Brookside Plus, Live Life Plus for sponsoring today's episode. Enjoy your week. See you next week on Sunday.
Diary was brought to you by Brookside Dairy Plus. Live Life Plus with Brookside.
Brookside Plus probiotic yogurt provides you the goodness of good bacteria for a healthy gut and a good immune system.